Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Jeff and Paper Gary on this beautiful, yet kind of still warm, no, it's just downright hot, Saturday, August 1st. Back in the garage today, going to continue working on stuff. I did make the decision yesterday to scrap the trim tab that I purchased, or sorry, the trim tab that I built, and purchase the parts to go build another one. I didn't like the twist that was in there, and inevitably what we ended up with is one side that was really flat and the other side that was kind of rounded, so the straight edge didn't sit flush against there like it's supposed to. I tuned that thing quite a bit with, if you remember, squeezing with a little block of wood as per the Vans manual and then tapping on the trailing edge with a hammer to go in or out. And I feel like that thing has just been beat on and manipulated too much, and it's still too far out of whack for me to be pleased with. So into the scrap bin it goes. New parts are on their way. We'll build up another one and see if we can't do better this time. I did a couple of things and will do a couple of things differently. One, I fixed the brake. Hopefully that is a little more true now and does a better job at consistently bending across the length there. And I think I will take a little bit more care when building the riblets that go in the end of those things. Some of those things I think were close, but maybe not as good as they could have been. So we'll see if we can't do better in that area. Other stuff, unboxing. I did get a pair of aviation grade wire strippers, which will go down here in the electrical drawer of the toolbox. Going to be starting on the wings here pretty soon, I hope. So I wanted to get prepared on things that I'm going to need to go into the wings. Wire is going to be one of them. Wire strippers are going to be necessary, so I would just went ahead and purchase that, as well as my first order of Pro Seal, which is terribly expensive stuff. So hopefully I don't use too much of that. Use enough, but not too much. So other than that, we're just going to keep cranking on here. I found the reamer to go ream the holes on those brackets so that the bolts will hopefully go in there a little bit easier today. Don't expect it to be easy, but easier would be nice. And we'll just go from there. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hang out. Let's see what we learn. Hey everyone, let's talk about elevators. So first off, getting these bolts in and out and mounting the elevators. A little bit of a pain, even more so when you forget to remount the brackets, the hinge brackets that are on there. They get powder coated, of course, and so there's a layer of powder coat in there and the bolts will not actually physically fit. And to try to figure out why that's happening while you're trying to put that on, that's a bad time. So get the reamer out, ream those holes clean, and the bolt will go nice and through there. The other thing about these is you're going to put these on and off so many times that the cadmium coating on the bolt is going to become worn off, and they're probably not going to be good after you've done all these test fitting and things. So what I did is I took my bolts and I went to the sander and I put a little bit of a bevel on them, right? Sanded them a little bit so that they would fit into those holes a little bit easier, and that made a big difference. The other thing is I found it easier to mount the horizontal stabilizer in the position you see now and set the elevators in here. And so when you're doing this, and why this is important, like there's quite a bit of work here to do. When you put this in, the counterbalance that's on the end of the elevator, on the outboard end, actually fits inside the skin. So the skin is just a little long and it slides down into place there and it fits inside and it prevents it from moving. So that obviously has to be trimmed. So the reason why I say you're going to take this on and off, and I may find out in the future that this didn't matter yet. If somebody knows, please tell me. I'd be curious. I notched out the areas, and I didn't want to remove any more material than necessary. Maybe a little bit more than necessary, but just enough. I didn't want it to be a really close tolerance, but I didn't want to have a big gap in there either. But in the future, right, we put fiberglass caps on the end of these things, and I don't know how much of a difference it makes. I don't know if I'll have to end up shaving off more or if I'll fill it in with epoxy resin or whatever else. So at any rate, I took a lot of time, trimming these things out so that they were nice and even on both sides, very clean, very radiused. That could all be for naught in the future. I don't know. But that is the reason why these things kind of have to go on and off, on and off. And so you make a cut and you put this thing on and see if it clears or not, and then you take it off and put it back on and just repeat the process. And once you've cleared that side, you come over to the center of the horizontal stabilizer where your spar is, and you have to notch that spar a little bit so that the elevator horn, has enough clearance to travel its intended length. And if you go into section 5, I believe it is, 5 dot something or other, it'll tell you how many degrees of deflection you're supposed to have up or down on the elevator. There's a max and there's a min. So there's a little bit of notching that you have to do, being very careful not to notch into those bars. So if you remember back when we put this thing together, there are two long bars that reinforce that spar. You can't cut into those. You don't want to cut into those. The instructions are very clear. Big bold letters, do not cut into these. But the little flange area on the spar itself, you go ahead and trim that out. So I did this, and I made a couple custom tools. One of them is a little piece of metal, and Pt.15 has a good picture of it, and I basically mimicked his tool, but used some scrap aluminum to make a little tool to hold the bolt. And then I also took a piece of, I just happen to have a big piece of round aluminum stock sitting around the house, and I sanded that down into down to the diameter of the bolt hole, maybe a little bit smaller, and then bent it to 90 degrees so I can use that as kind of an alignment tool. So those two things helped tremendously to get those bolts in and out, because like I said, you're going to take these things on and off a number of times. Once you clear those ends on the outboard ends to where you've trimmed it out enough and they look nice and neat, and you've got enough travel in your elevator, the instructions tell you to drill a hole into the elevator horn, and you have to build some sort of guide, some drill guide that goes inside that bearing. So if you're looking right now, that center hinge on the elevator, on the horizontal stab, it's got a bearing in there, and they say, well, just any piece of aluminum tubing that's a 1/4 inch outside diameter and 3/32 inch inside diameter will do. Well, I don't have that laying around the garage. So I went to a friend of mine and had him 3D print a little insert for me to use as a drill guide. So that worked out really well, and you'll see that, I think, later on here in the video. But that's necessary, so you do that, and you'll end up doing that to each elevator, because ultimately a bolt and a washer stack will go between there to hold the elevators onto the horizontal stab. And so that was pretty much it. Not anything real difficult on here, but just kind of take your time with it. You're always better off to remove just a little bit of metal and then find out you have to remove a little bit more than to remove too much and find out that you have to figure out how to add some back. So take your time with it, go slow, make sure that you keep your radiuses nice and clean. Like I said, I don't know if it'll matter in the future, but until I'm proven otherwise, I'm going to assume that it does. Other than that, no fancy outro on this one. I think I just kind of forgot to record one. And so that's it. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to drop them below. Give a thumbs up if you liked it, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks, everyone.